Krishna, welcome all of you for today's Srimad Bhagavatam session. Let us begin with prayers. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamin Nitinamine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंदा श्री अद्वैत गदाधरा श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंदा हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरयेत् नष्टप्रायेषु अभद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवति उत्तमश्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्टिकी. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Creation, Chapter 6, entitled Conversation between Narad Muni and Srila Vyasadeva. Text 5. Narada Uvacha Bhikshubhirvipravasite Vijnane Dreshtubhirmama Vartamano Vayasyadye Tata Etad Akarasham. Translation and purport by Vishwaguru Srila Prabhupada. Translation. Sri Narada said, the great sages who had imparted scientific knowledge of transcendence to me departed for other places, and I had to pass my life in this way. Purport. In his previous life, when Naradji was impregnated with spiritual knowledge by the grace of the great sages, there was a tangible change in his life. Although he was only a boy of 5 years, that is an important symptom visible after initiation by the bona fide spiritual master. Actual association of devotees brings about a quick change in life for spiritual realization. How it so acted upon the previous life of Sri Narad Muni is described by and by in this chapter. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purport. So yesterday we saw Vyasadeva eagerly asked certain questions to his spiritual master Narad Muni when he heard about the past life of Narad Muni. So Vyasadeva asked, what exactly happened after you received initiation from those pure devotees of the Lord? You said that you became very attached to the spiritual life. You became attached to chanting of the holy names of the Lord. You gained attraction to hear about Krishna Katha. All this happened because of the association of the pure devotees. But after they departed from that place, what exactly happened in your life? What were the series of events that unfolded in your life which led to you becoming Sri Narad Muni, the transcendental spaceman, the liberated soul, the pure devotee of the Lord? So these were the questions asked by Vyasadeva, and Narad Muni in the shloka begins to answer the questions asked by Vyasadeva. Narada Uvacha, Narad Muni is saying, Bhikshubhir Vipravasite, Bhikshubhir, the great sages, Bhikshus, the pure devotees of the Lord, Vipravasite, after having departed to other places. As I mentioned, they stayed only during the 4 months of rainy season, that is Chaturmasya, in that particular place. And after the Chaturmasya was over, they continued to their different destinations. Actually, they were traveling preachers, Parivrajakacharyas. Parivrajakacharyas means those who keep on traveling and preach the message of Krishna consciousness. So, during the 4 months of the rainy season, they do not travel, they remained in one place. And after that, they continued. Vipravasite, they departed for their other places. Vijnana adeshtrubihi. Vijnana refers to Vishishta Jnana. Jnana means knowledge. Vijnana means Vishishta Jnana. or realized knowledge. Here it is referring to the scientific spiritual knowledge that was imparted by the pure devotees to the boy Narada. Adeshtrabihi. Adeshtrabihi means those who imparted unto me, unto Narad Muni, right? So they imparted this scientific spiritual knowledge based on their realization to the boy Narada, and then Vipravasite, they left that place, they departed for other places. And Narad Muni says, Mama Vartamanaha Vayasi Adye. Mama, mine, Vartamanaha, present, Vayasi Adye, before this life. Vartamana means the present tense. Before this present life of mine, that is, as Narad Muni, as the liberated soul, what happened? Tataha, thereafter, etat, this, akarshanam, akarasham, performed. So Narad Muni is saying the great sages who had imparted scientific knowledge of transcendence to me departed for other places, and I had to pass my life in this way. So Narad Muni is saying he's beginning to answer the questions asked by Vyasadeva, and he's saying that after they departed, uh, I began to lead my life based on the instructions they imparted to me. Now that's the whole point. Initiation means receiving the transcendental knowledge from the bona fide spiritual master and taking the instructions given by the spiritual master very, very seriously and acting upon them. Now, there are three words in Sanskrit: Adesha, Sandesha, and Upadesha. We must have heard these words, right? Upadesha means instructions or advice, and Sandesha means message that is carried by a messenger, whereas Adesha means order. Now, the spiritual master gives both Upadesha and Adesha. And of course, he also brings the Sandesha, the message of Godhead. So, in this way, the spiritual master, he transforms anybody who comes in touch with him, particularly his instructions, his message, and his orders. So, the spiritual master brings the message, Sandesha, of Krishna from the spiritual world, isn't it? And not only he brings the message, but he also brings the process by which one can go back to the spiritual world. And this process is directly imported from the spiritual world itself. Golokera Premadhana Harinama Sankirtana. The Harinam Sankirtana, the holy names of the Lord, the chanting of the holy names of the Lord, is a process which is directly imported from the spiritual world. And the spiritual master brings this Sandesha, brings this message of Godhead that the Lord is eagerly waiting for you in the spiritual world. And now you take up this process of Harinama Sankirtana, which I have brought from the spiritual world, especially for you. And if you simply practice this process, I'm sure that you will come back. I will take you back to the spiritual world. So this is the Sandesha that the spiritual master gives, the message of Godhead. Then there is Upadesha. The spiritual master also gives certain advice, certain instructions on how to conduct one's life so that one becomes eligible or qualified to return back to Godhead. So these instructions are like, for example, take the association of devotees. The spiritual master says, come to the temple and render service to the deity, render service to the Lord. The spiritual master says, read my books. The spiritual master says, only in the association of devotees you can make advancement in spiritual life. Therefore, always seek the association of sincere devotees. Now, these are all called Upadesha, the advice. Advice is given only by well-wishers. Those who really want to see that you are growing, you're progressing, and you're happy in your life, they give Upadesha. advice. And Srila Prabhupada always said, I am your ever well wisher. In fact, whenever Srila Prabhupada wrote any letter to his disciple, at the end he would sign by saying, Your ever well wisher, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami. And this is out of his concern for his disciples and for the suffering souls in this material world. Srila Prabhupada gives this Upadesha, these instructions. In fact, one of the great acharyas in our Gaudiya Vaishnava Parampara, the direct disciple of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, that is Srila Rupa Goswami, has compiled 11 verses for beginners in Krishna consciousness. And these 11 verses, he calls them as Upadeshamrita, the nectar of instruction. Prabhupada has translated and commented upon each of these 11 verses. And this book is called Nectar of Instruction. What is the instructions or the advice given by the scriptures, given by the great acharyas like Rupa Goswami for our benefit? So when we follow these Upadeshamrita, the nectar of instruction given by Rupa Goswami, gradually we will be able to make advancement in Krishna consciousness. So Sandesha and Upadesha. The third one is Adesha. Adesha means order. So, ordering, the spiritual master orders his disciples to follow certain things rigidly on a daily basis. Like our spiritual master, Srila Prabhupada, has ordered all of us that we should chant 16 rounds of Hare Krishna Maha Mantra every day. We should follow the four regulative principles throughout our life. These two are the most important orders given by the spiritual master. Now, order, the disciple has to follow the orders of the spiritual master. There is no option. It is not optional. Orders or Adesha is binding in nature. The moment I say I am a disciple of Srila Prabhupada, it means that I will follow his orders very rigidly. So during the time of initiation, during the time of Diksha, the disciple agrees to follow these two important adeshas, these two important orders of Srila Prabhupada. That is when officially the disciple gets connected to the parampara through Srila Prabhupada. He becomes part of the Gaudiya Vaishnava parampara system. So this binding orders have to be carried out very diligently by the disciple. And Srila Prabhupada says disciple means discipline of obedience. We have to obey the spiritual master's order. The moment we disobey, we become disconnected from the spiritual master. The moment we disobey, we become distracted from the path of Krishna consciousness. The moment we disobey, we also become disempowered to carry out Krishna conscious activities. So 4D, we should remember. Disobedience leads to disconnection. Disobedience leads to deviation, and disobedience also leads to disempowerment. 4D. So therefore, we should not disobey the orders of the spiritual master. Prabhupada says, disciple means he has to voluntarily agree to follow the instructions or the orders of the spiritual master. Voluntarily agree. In fact, the Sanskrit word shishya comes from the shas dhatu, root word shas. Shas means to be controlled. It is from the same shas dhatu that words like shastra and shastra also come. Shastra means controlling somebody through weapons. Shastra means controlling through the injunctions of the scriptures. So, which is a better way of controlling? Yes, Shastra. For civilized human beings, Shastric way of controlling is recommended. But for those who are uncivilized or those who are not voluntarily surrendering to Guru and Krishna, for them Shastra is awaiting. At the fag end of this Kali Yuga, the Supreme Lord himself will appear as Kalki, and with his Shastra, with his weapons, he will actually kill the disobedient souls who are rebellious against the authority of the Lord. So therefore, control has to be there now, either uh, through words, instructions, or through weapons. So we have to become intelligent. We should not actually go to the shastra control, but we should agree for the shastra control. So a disciple, Shishya, is one who actually agrees to follow the injunctions of the scriptures and the spiritual master. He is called Shishya. The moment the Shishya disregards or disobeys the instructions of the spiritual master, it means he has become disconnected from the spiritual master. He stops receiving the mercy and empowerment of the spiritual master, and he becomes disoriented in spiritual life. So, initiation means agreeing voluntarily to follow the orders of the spiritual master, following the orders, adesha, of the spiritual master. In this shloka, the word adesha comes. Adeshtrabihi, Narad Muni says, I was ordered by my spiritual master by to follow certain things. They ordered me to follow certain things like chanting of the holy names and studying of the scriptures and etc. So Adeshtrabihi imparted this knowledge and gave me the orders. That is the meaning. So Prabhupada mentions that uh, here it is said there was a tangible change in his life, although he was only a boy of 5 years. That is an important symptom visible after initiation by the bona fide spiritual master. So, after initiation, that means after the a person accepts the bona fide spiritual master and agrees to follow his instructions and orders, there can be visible. There is a one can see a tangible change in one's life. And Prabhupada says, even though this boy, Narada, in his past life was only 5 years old boy, but there was a tangible change, and that is the symptom visible after initiation by a bona fide spiritual master. Actual association of devotees brings about a quick change in life for spiritual realization. As I was telling yesterday, the real turning point in our life is when we actually voluntarily agree to follow the instructions of Srila Prabhupada, surrender to him, and lead our life according to his instructions. That is the real turning point in our life. So let us see what all changes happened in his past life with Narada, as he is going to relate it in the coming shlokas. Text 6. एकात्मजा मे जननी योषिन्मूढ च किङ्करी मय्यात्मजे अनन्यगतौ चक्रे स्नेहानुबन्धनम्. Translation and purport. Translation. There is no purport to this verse. Translation by Vishwaguru Srila Prabhupada. Narad Muni continued, I was the only son of my mother, who was not only a simple woman, but a maid servant as well. Since I was her only offspring, she had no other alternative for protection. She bound me with the tie of affection. Ekatmaja, Atmaja. Here the word Atma refers to body. Actually, the word Atma has got different meanings in different contexts. In some contexts, the word Atma means the body. In some other places, Atma means the soul. In some other places, Atma means the mind. Atma can also mean intelligence. Atma can also mean ego, false ego. So it has got different meanings at different contexts. And therefore, simply the knowledge of Sanskrit cannot enable us to understand the scriptures. One has to approach the scriptures through the explanations given by a bona fide acharya. Then one can understand which word means what and what is its implication in different shlokas. So here, Atmaja means the body. Atma means body. Ja means to take birth. So Atmaja means to take birth from one's body. That means it actually means son or daughter. Atmaja means son or daughter. So Ekatmaja, he says, my mother had only one son, that is myself. This is about the previous life. Narad Muni is saying, I was the only son of my mother. Me Janani. Janani means one who gives birth, mother. Yoshit Mudha Chakinkari. So, Yoshit means a woman. Mudha means foolish. Kinkari means maid servant. She was actually maid servant. She would go to different people's houses and do their household chores, and that's how she would earn her livelihood and bring up her son. So, since he was the only son and she was also all alone, she had no husband, so she was the only person. She had the only son. So therefore, naturally, they were very attached, attracted to each other, very attached to each other out of affection. Mayatmaje ananya gatau. See, ananya gataha. Gati means protection or option. We can say gati means destination or protection. Ananya gati, na anya gati. There was no alternative for protection for my mother apart from me because I was the only son. Hmm? Atmaje ananya gatau chakre did sneha anubandhanam. Bandhana means bondage. Bandhana means to tie up. Anubandhana means very nicely tying up because of affection. Sneha means affection. Snehanubandhanam, tied by affectionate bondage. So Narad Muni is saying, I was the only son of my mother, and my mother was a simple woman. She was not very knowledgeable. She was not very scholarly, or she was a very ordinary person. And she was also working as a maid servant. And I was her only offspring. Because of this, she had no other alternative for protection. Hmm? Ananya Gatau. So she bound me with the tie of affection. Chakre Snehanu Bandhanam. Now we hear this word bandhu. This word bandhu is very familiar with all of us. In Indian languages, we use bandhu means relatives, isn't it? So the word bandhu actually comes from this bandhana. Bandhana means attachment or bondage. Those who are bound to us, or those to whom we get bound out of love, affection, they are called bandhava or bandhu, they are called. So in Hindi also we have this word bandhana. Bandhana means to tie, isn't it? So those who are very attached to us, or we are attached to them out of love, affection, because we happen to take birth in their family, or they are related to us in one or the other way, blood relatives, we say, they are called bandhu bandhavas. And this bandhavas or bandhus, we become very attached to them. Why do we become attached to our near and dear ones? It's because of this conception that I am the body. We think that we are this bodies, and those who are related to this body, we think that they are our kinsmen, they are our kith and kin. We become very attached to them. We are ready to, many times we people do a lot of sacrifices for their bandhu bandhavas. They go through a lot of personal uh, difficulty for the sake of serving their relatives. The same kind of feeling they may not have towards somebody else. Oh, because they are not our family members. But these are our family members, therefore we should do something for them. Now, this is called the bodily conception of life. As mentioned in the Bhagavatam, Janasya mohoyam aham mameti. So, aham and mama. Aham means I. I am this body. Mama means mine. Everybody connected with this body are mine. So, this is a materialistic idea. This is called bodily conception of life. This bodily conception of life rules everybody's life in this material world. Everybody. In fact, this bodily conception of life is that which keeps us bound to the cycle of birth and death. This is a kind of moha, illusion. Hmm? Why it is moha? Because In the previous life also, we had a set of parents, we had a set of relatives, we had our siblings, we had our other relatives, everybody we had. But the moment we change that body and we have come to a new body now, we don't remember all of those relatives, our parents, our friends, our family members, siblings. We don't remember any of them. So now we have another set of relatives and we are very attached to them now. We think these are our people. And once we give up this particular body, in the next life, we will have another set of relatives and we will become attached to them. Oh, this is my mother, this is my father, these are my siblings, these are my family members. We become so attached to them, we become affectionate towards them. But then who are we actually? Whose relatives we are? Actually, the Bhagavatam gives a very nice analogy. Just like there is a pravaha means flood. When there is a flood, many things get carried away in the flood. And there are, light objects like, for example, grass, dry grass, hay. When the water flows, because of the current of the water flow, many grass pieces come together, and because of the same current of water, the grass pieces also get separated. Sometimes they are joined together, sometimes they get separated. In the same way, this kala pravaha is there, in which all the living entities in this material world are actually washed away. The kala pravaha, the force of time, brings two jivas together, makes them develop attachment towards each other, affection towards each other, and in due course of time, the same kala pravaha separates them. Sometimes we come together, sometimes we get separated. So these relationships that we have in this material world, these are not eternal. These are not our eternal parents or eternal friends or eternal well-wishers, eternal relatives. No, they're only pertaining to this body. They're pertaining to this lifetime. But then these relationships that we have in this material world give us a hint about the actual eternal relationship that we can experience in the spiritual world in relationship with Krishna. Just like when you see the shadow of the tree, you can understand that there is a real tree. In the same way, when you see limited love, affection, and all of that we experience in this material world through our material bodily relationships, these are actually meant to give us a hint that actually there is unending loving relationship existing in the spiritual world, and we must actually not become attached to the temporary relationships in this material world, but turn our attention towards the eternal loving relationship with Krishna. Asatoma Sadgamaya. This is what the scriptures say. Don't become attached to Asat. Asat means that which does not last long. Asat means temporary. Asato ma means don't. Sat gamaya, enter into sat. Gamaya means to enter, to become attached to. Become attached to the sat, become attached to eternal relationships. Instead of being attached to asat sangha, become attached to sat sangha. Sat sangha means association of devotees where you get to know about what is eternal relationship with Krishna, how to develop that eternal relationship with Krishna. Now, these are all things which a devotee understands during his course of advancement in spiritual life, especially after receiving the instructions from a bona fide spiritual master and carrying out those instructions very diligently. So it is mentioned in the first canto of Bhagavatam, the very beginning, Vasudeve Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Prayojitaha Janayati Ashu Vairagyam Jnanam Chaya Dahaitukam. When we start rendering devotional service to Vasudeva, Krishna, transcendental knowledge and detachment, both of these will come about in our consciousness. Transcendental knowledge that I am not the body, I am spirit soul, I have an eternal loving relationship with Krishna, And detachment from everything that is temporary and material will come about in the heart of a sincere devotee as he continues to render devotional service to Krishna under the guidance of a bona fide spiritual master as per his instructions and orders. So Narad Muni he's saying that actually in my past life, that mother whom I had, she was a very simple woman and she was overly attached to me because I was her only son. So what happened because of that Snehanubandhanam? What happened after that? Let us see. Text 7. Sasvatantra na kalpasid yogakshemam mamechati ईशस्य हि वशे लोको योषा दारुमहि yatha. Translation by Srila Prabhupada. Narad Muni said, she wanted to look after my maintenance properly, but because she was not independent, she was not able to do anything for me. The world is under the full control of the Supreme Lord. Therefore, everyone is like a wooden doll in the hands of a puppet master. So Narad Muni is saying, hmm, Sa, Sa means my mother, she, Aswatantra. She was not Swatantra. She was not independent. She was Aswatantra. She was dependent. Now, in this material world, if one wants to actually be on the material plane, I'm saying, if one wants to be Swatantra, one wants to be independent, then one must be financially independent. That's why everybody wants to uh, accumulate money and be financially independent so that they need not have to depend on anybody else for their existence, for their maintenance, isn't it? So she was Aswatantra. She was not independent. She was dependent. She was doing some simple jobs in people's houses, and that's how she was earning her livelihood. And you can just imagine the amount of money that she could earn by these small jobs. It was very less, very negligible. Na kalpa asit kshemam. Na, not, kalpa, able, asit, was, yogakshemam, maintenance. So, because she was not independent, she was not able to actually take care of me nicely. Mama ichchati, mama, my, ichchati. Although she was very much desirous of taking care of me nicely, but she was not able to take care of me nicely because she was not financially independent. Right? And then Narad Muni says a very interesting line. He says, Ishasya hi vashe lokaha. This lokaha, this material world, is Ishasya vashaha. It is under the control of the Supreme Lord. It is under the control of the providence. Ishasya. Now, this is a very important realization that all of us must have we must get during the course of our advancement in Krishna consciousness. We should not think that I will work hard, I will accumulate a lot of money, wealth, and I will, as per my own schemes and plans, I will conduct my life according to my own desire. I am the master of my destiny. Many people say like this, but this is totally wrong. It's not the case. Ishasya hi vashe lokaha. This material world is fully under the control of the Supreme Lord, Ishasya. Isha means Ishvara, means the controller. So in the material world, there are many controllers. Of course, we are also Ishvaras only, but we are all mini Ishvaras. We are all controllers in a very limited capacity, right? We are controllers, at the same time, we are also controlled by other Ishvaras. For example, if you are working in a company, you may be earning some money, and because of that, you may become proud. See, I am the maintainer and provider of this family, and I'm going to control the activities of all my family members. So you may say, I'm a Ishvara of my family, but when you go to your office, your boss becomes the Ishvara of you. So you may say Ishvara in the family, in your house, but outside your house, you're not the Ishvara. In your office, somebody else is waiting to lord over you. So in the material world, everybody is simultaneously a controller as well as a controlled person. So when you search like this, is there somebody who is only controller but not controlled by anybody else? That is the uh, root cause analysis, ultimate search after the ultimate controller, and that is answered in the very beginning of the Brahma Samhita in the fifth chapter, verse number 1. It says, Ishvara Parama Krishna. Ishvaraha means controller. Paramaha means the highest, the greatest. Who is that greatest controller? Who controls everything and everybody, but who himself is not controlled by anybody? And that personality is called Krishna. He is called the Parameshwara, the supreme controller. So this we have to understand. So we are all controllers in a very, very limited capacity, but we are also controlled. Somebody may say, "Oh, what about the president of America, the president of US? He is a very powerful, influential person in this world. He's very powerful. Is he not the supreme controller? No, he is not the supreme controller because he is controlled by Kala, by time. He may be the he may be the greatest, he may be the president of the superpower of this world, but he is also under the influence of Kala. He also has to die one day. When the time comes, he has to die. He is under the influence of Janma, Mrityu, Jara, Vyadhi, right? Miseries. These are not under his control. So therefore, the only person who is free from all these controls, he is called the Supreme Ishvara, the Supreme Lord. So Narad Muni is saying, Ishasya hi vashe loko yosha darumayi yatha. He is giving a nice example, analogy. Everything in this world is controlled by the Supreme Lord, just like Darumayi. Daru means wooden. Darumayi, Yosha. Yosha means doll. Like a doll made up of wood is controlled by the puppeteer. The puppeteer controls, the puppet master controls with his hands the wooden doll. In the same way, everyone in this world is controlled by the will of providence, the Supreme Lord. So my mother, she had all intention to take care of me nicely, but since she was not independent, she was not able to do much for me. And I also had this realization that the world is under the full control of the Supreme Lord. Everyone is, after all, like a wooden doll managed by the hands of a puppet master. So everybody is controlled. Right? Many times we have the best intentions, we have strong desire, but we will not be able to act according to our intentions and desires because the Lord's will is something different from our desire. Therefore, a devotee of the Lord, whenever he finds that his desires are not coming into shape, he does not feel sorry. He feels, okay, the Lord has a higher plan. Okay, I desired in this way, but the Lord has a higher plan. That is the meaning of this. Man proposes, God disposes. This we have to understand. We are not supreme controllers. So we can only desire, we can even work hard, but if the Lord has a different plan, then our work, our hard work and our desires will not bear fruit. So we have to understand this. The whole world is under the control of the Supreme Lord. Ishasya hi vashe lokaha. So Narad Muni had this realization. My mother had all the good intentions to take care of me nicely, but she could not take care of me because the Lord had a different plan. See how the devotees can reconcile things and contradictions in their life. Devotees of the Lord who have proper understanding, they never become disturbed when things go out of control because devotees do not try to control things in their life. The devotees know that everything is controlled by the Lord. And the best thing for me is to surrender to the Lord and render service to Him. And I should not imitate the Lord and try to control things around me. I should simply become controlled by the instructions of my spiritual master and the will of the Lord. In this way, I can be completely happy and peaceful. This is what Krishna mentions in the fifth chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, last shloka, the peace formula. How to attain peace in our life. If you want to attain peace in your life, you have to recognize three things in your life, Krishna says. First one, Bhoktaram Yajna Tapasam. Krishna is the supreme enjoyer. I am not the enjoyer. Krishna is the enjoyer. Therefore, all my activities should be meant for his enjoyment. If I think I am the enjoyer, then I cannot remain peaceful. Because in reality, the actual enjoyer is Krishna only. And I'm trying to imitate Krishna's position. And if I imitate, how can I be happy? I cannot be happy. So the first thing is in the peace formula, recognizing that I am not the enjoyer, Krishna is the supreme enjoyer. Second, Sarvaloka Maheshwaram, Maha Ishwaram. Ishwara means controller. Krishna is the supreme controller of all the lokas, of all the planetary systems. I am not the controller. I am a very little, insignificant Ishvara. But the Maha Ishvara, the greatest among all the Ishvaras, is Krishna. Sarvaloka Maheshwaram. He controls the activities of all the universes. Therefore, he is the supreme controller. I have to recognize this. I should give up my controlling tendency, the lording over tendency. Third one is Suhrudam Sarvabhutanam. Krishna is the supreme well-wisher of all living entities. He is the well-wisher of me, of everybody. Therefore, whatever happens in my life, Krishna only has sanctioned it. I should not feel sorry for whatever has happened in my life because Krishna is my supreme well-wisher. He knows what is best for me. So when we understand these three things, Jnatva Mam Shanti Richati, Krishna says, if you understand these three things in your life, that Krishna is the supreme enjoyer, Krishna is the supreme controller, and Krishna is my supreme well-wisher. If we understand these three things, then we are always peaceful and happy amidst all circumstances. So a devotee is one who has understood these things. He has understood this peace formula. Therefore, whatever may happen, whatever calamities may happen in a devotee's life, devotee does not become disturbed. So let's see what happened in Narada's life, in his past life previously. Text 8. Aham cha tad brahma kule ushivam upekshaya digdesha kala vyutat panno balaka panchahayanah. Narad Muni says, when I was a mere child of 5 years, I lived in a Brahmana school. I was dependent on my mother's affection and had no experience of different lands. Aham chatad Brahma Kule. Brahma Kula. Kula here refers to school. Even today, the vice chancellor and the chancellors of university, they are called as Kulapati and Upakulapati, like that. So Kulapati means the chancellor of the university. So Kula refers to the school or the educational institution. So here, Brahma Kule, we also use the word Guru Kula, isn't it? Guru Kula means in the school run by the Guru, by the spiritual master. In the 7th canto of Bhagavatam, in the one of the verses, Narad Muni instructs Yudhishthir Maharaj, and he says, Brahmachari Gurukule Vasandanto Guror Hitam. A Brahmachari is supposed to live in the Gurukula, live in the ashram of the spiritual master and render service according to his instructions. So there also we see the word Kula. Gurukula means the house of the spiritual master, the school or the ashram of the spiritual master. So here Narad Muni is saying, Aham cha tad Brahma Kule, that school of the Brahmanas. I was living there. Ushivan means I lived there. Tat upekshaya, being dependent on. I was dependent on my mother's affection. Tat upekshaya, dikdesha kala avyutapannaha. Avyutpannaha means I had no experience of dik. Dik means directions. Desha means country. Kala means time. Why? Because balakaha panchahayanaha. Hayana means years old. Pancha means 5. Balaka. I was a mere child. I was a mere child of only 5 years old. Therefore, I had no experience of this world, about the directions and about the country, about the time. I had no any such uh, mature understanding. I had no experience of any of these things. I was simply a 5 year old boy, and I lived in a Brahmana school, and I was fully dependent on my mother's affection. So Narad Muni is building the story. He is talking about his material situation in his previous life. I was just a 5 year old boy, dependent fully on my mother. But mother was Aswatantra. She was not independent. I was dependent on my mother, but my mother was not independent. Right? You see how in the material world we depend on so many people, but they themselves are not independent. This is a harsh reality of this world, right? Example is there. Many examples are there in the Bhagavatam itself. In the eighth canto of Bhagavatam, we study about Gajendra Moksha. And there we see Gajendra, the king of the elephants. He was surrounded by all his other fellow elephants and his wives. And they all went to the river, to the lake in the Trikuta Parvata for water sports. For hours together, they splashed water on each other with affection and love. But then, when the crocodile caught hold of Gajendra's leg, none of those relatives, none of those wives, none of those companions of Gajendra could actually save Gajendra. You see, that's the harsh reality of this world. During party time, everybody will come. During crisis time, nobody will be there. On the social media, you will have a lot of friends and followers, but in real life, when you are in need, nobody will be there. That is the harsh reality of this material world. Why? Why were the companions of Gajendra unable to give them protection? Because they themselves were afraid of their life, losing their life. Oh, crocodile has come, and first let me save myself, isn't it? We must have all traveled in the airplane, and in the aeroplane, when we travel in the flight, in the beginning, they give instructions. In case if there is a uh, low cabin pressure, when there is no air for breathing, what you should do, they will give a demonstration. The air hostess will give a demonstration that from top of your seat, um, a mask will come down. So before helping others, you put on the mask and so that you breathe yourself properly, then you can pay attention to helping others, isn't it? So everybody want to first make sure that their life is secure, safe. And in this material world, padam padam yat vipadam, every step there is danger. That's the nature of this material world. So therefore, others, our so-called loved ones and relatives and friends and anybody who have a lot of affection for us, even though they have all good intention to help us, to care for us, many a times they themselves won't be able to care for us because they themselves will be in a very awkward, helpless situation. That is the reality of this world. Therefore, the Bhagavatam says, Sharanam Sharanyam Gato Mukundam. The only person who is worthy of taking shelter of is Mukunda, Krishna. Don't take shelter of anybody in this world because they themselves are insecure. They are not in a comfortable situation. They are not fully independent to give you protection. They themselves are attacked by so many problems and miseries. Therefore, who is that Sharanyam? Sharanyam means the one who is worthy of taking Sharana. Sharana means shelter. Who is that person who is the person who is worthy of taking shelter? That is Mukunda. Gato Mukundam. So we have to go to Mukunda. Gataha means to go, to approach, to take shelter of Krishna. That is why after instructing the entire Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna is telling, Sarva Dharman Parityajya Mamekam Sharanam Vraja. Krishna is saying very openly, he's ordering all of us. This is an Adesha. Krishna is telling, you please give up everything and surrender to me. That is the real dharma. What is the highest dharma? The highest dharma is to give up all other dharmas and surrender to Krishna. That is the highest dharma. So, unless one surrenders to Krishna, one's position in this material world is very, very insecure, and it is very, very pitiable. In one of the songs composed by a great Vaishnava Acharya, Govinda Das Thakur, the song is called Bhajahure Mana Sri Nanda Nandana. In that song, one of the lines is Kamala Dala Jala Jeevana Talamala. What is our position in this material world? Our position in this material world is like the drop of water on the lotus leaf. It is not very secure. It is very shaky. Talamala. Talamala means it is shaking always. Water is not secure there, stable, very unstable. So we have to realize how unstable our position in this material world is. Therefore, if you take shelter of another person whose position is also unstable, what is the use? So therefore, Bhagavatam is saying, Sharanam Sharanyam Gato Mukundaha. So Krishna is the only person who is worthy of taking shelter. Therefore, an intelligent person will take shelter of Krishna. So Narad Muni is saying, I was just a 5-year-old boy. I had no experience of practical life in this world, and I was simply dependent on my mother's affection. But she herself was Aswatantra, and and don't know what happened after that. Narad Muni is saying, let's see what is the next thing that happened. Text 9. Ekada nirgatam geha duhantim nishigam pathi sarpodashat sarpodashat pada sprishtaha kripanam kalachoditaha. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. Once upon a time, my poor mother, when going out one night to milk a cow, was bitten on the leg by a serpent, influenced by supreme time. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. That is the way of dragging a sincere soul nearer to God. The poor boy was being looked after only by his affectionate mother, and yet the mother was taken from the world by the supreme will in order to put him completely at the mercy of the Lord. So now Narad Muni is saying, Ekada, once upon a time, Nirgatam, having gone away, Gehat, from home, my mother had gone out of my house one day, Duhantim, for milking, Gam, cow. To milk a cow, my mother had gone to bring some milk, probably to feed the boy. She had gone. When did she go? Nishi, at night she went. When it was dark, she went to milk a cow. Pathi, Pathi means on the path. Sarpaha, a serpent, a snake. Adashat, it bit my mother. Adashat, bit. Why? Pada, Padasprishtha, on the leg. Probably mother had not noticed that there was a snake on the way because it was dark night, and she probably stepped on a snake while walking, and because of that the snake bit my mother on the leg. Sprishtaha, thus struck, and she passed away. My mother passed away. Kripanam, the poor woman, Kripana, poor woman, Kala Choditaha, under the influence of the supreme Kala, supreme time, in this way she passed away. You see? So Narad Muni is saying, you can just imagine from material point of view, what could have been the situation of that boy? He was the only son, there was no father, and mother was doing some simple jobs and trying to take care of the child. And the child was also very much dependent on the mother. The mother was so affectionate towards the child. She was trying her best to give a comfortable life for her child. She was working very hard, but she could not because she was not financially independent. Under all such circumstances, something was going on, but one day, because of the influence of Kala, the supreme time, My mother passed away
One
because of his
second, let me
snake
have a
bite.
concentration. Control very Huh?
My mother passed away because of his snake bite. So, when you see from a material point of view, the boy would have got devastated in his life, isn't it? My only caring mother, the only person who was taking care of me out of so much affection, she is no more now. You know, how cruel is God? Many people talk like that. God is very cruel. He's giving me miseries after miseries in my life. People say like that, isn't it? But this boy, Narada, luckily, he had actually met pure devotees of the Lord and he had got spiritual understanding. So he saw this incident from in the light of the transcendental knowledge that he had received from his spiritual masters. That's very, very important. Whatever happens in our life, we must see through the eye of transcendental knowledge. Pashyanti jnana chakshushaha, Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita. If you look through your material eyes, material vision, you cannot understand why things are happening in a certain way in your life. But when you try to see the same incident from the point of view of transcendental knowledge, then we will be able to join the dots and understand the higher plan of the Lord. Hmm? In the Bhagavad Gita, 4th chapter, Lord Krishna tells this: approach a bona fide spiritual master and receive transcendental knowledge from him. And how do you receive transcendental knowledge? By rendering service to him, by inquiring submissively, and by surrendering to him. Pranipata, Pariprashna, Seva. Three things are required when you approach a bona fide spiritual master. Pranipata means you have to surrender to him. Pariprashna means you have to submissively inquire from him. And then Sevaya, you must also render service to him like a menial servant. Then what happens? Upadekshyanti te jnanam jnaninas tattvadarshinaha. Since they are Tattvadarshinaha, the spiritual master is seen the truth, he will impart to you the transcendental knowledge. Krishna says. After that, what happens? After receiving transcendental knowledge, Krishna says, Na punarmoham. Once we receive transcendental knowledge from a bona fide spiritual master, and you become fixed up in that knowledge by proper practice and understanding, then na punar moham. You don't come under the illusion of this material world again. So that means you become liberated from the material illusion. So Narad Muni, in his past life, even though he was a 5-year-old boy, how did he perceive this incident of his mother's death because of a snake bite? He said it is because of Kala Choditaha. It is the influence of Kala, the supreme Kala, which is actually a representative of Lord Krishna. In the 10th canto of Bhagavatam, the Nagapatnis offer prayers to Krishna and they say, Kalaya Kalanabhaya, O Krishna, you are Kala Swarupa, you are time himself, and time is your representative. So, anything that happens in a devotee's life, we should not think that Krishna is not in control of those things. No, Krishna is only ordained those things. That's how a devotee sees. So Prabhupada mentions in the purport very interestingly, that is the way of dragging a sincere soul nearer to God. Sometimes Krishna puts his devotees in miserable condition. Why? So that they become free from material attachments and become completely dependent on him. That is a way of Krishna's mercy, way of showing Krishna shows his mercy in that way by stripping a devotee of all his material attachments, right? So in the 10th canto of Bhagavatam also, in a conversation between Krishna and Yudhishthir Maharaj in the Rajasuya Yajna, the same point, um, Krishna says, Yudhishthir Maharaj says, why are your devotees generally poor? You are Lakshmi Pati, Narayana, but your devotees are materially in an impoverished condition. Why is that? So that time Krishna says, Yasyaham anugrahnami harishye tadhanam shanaihi. O Yudhishthir Maharaj, when I want to show special favor on some of my foolish devotees means On one side, they say, I want Krishna. On the other side, they're also attached to many material things in this world. So, what do I do if I want to show special favor on them? Harishye tad dhanam shanaihi. Shanaihi means gradually, slowly. Harishye, I take away their wealth. Dhanam. Harishye. That's why Krishna is called Hari. Hari means one who takes away inauspicious things from from his devotees. Harati iti Hari. Harati means he takes away. He takes away inauspicious things from the life of his devotees. And the greatest inauspiciousness for every devotee is his material attachments. So, for this does not happen for everybody. It only happens in special cases. And Krishna says, if I want to show special mercy on some of my selected devotees, I take away their material possessions, their attachments, and in that way they become completely dependent on my mercy. They completely surrender to me, and they become my pure devotees. So it is Krishna's way of showing special favor upon his devotees. So the boy, he was very attached to his mother, but the mother passed away, and Prabhupada writes in the purport, the poor boy was being looked after only by his affectionate mother, and yet the mother was taken away from the world by the supreme will in order to put him completely at the mercy of the Lord. So this is the spiritual perspective that Bhagavatam is presenting to us. Whenever some so-called inauspicious things happen in our life, we should know that it is happening uh, based on the Lord's desire, based on the Lord's sanction. I should not get disturbed. Maybe the Lord has a higher plan for me, and I should not get disturbed. This is the thinking a devotee must have. I'll take another 10 minutes. We have one more shloka to uh, discuss today. Text 10. तदातम् अहमीशस्य भक्तानां शम्मभीप्सतः अनुग्रहं मन्यमानः प्रातिष्ठं दिशमुत्तराम्. Translation and purport by Vishwaguru Srila Prabhupada. Translation: Narad Muni said, I took this as the special mercy of the Lord, who always desires benediction for his devotees, and so thinking, I started for the north. Purport: confidential devotees of the Lord see in every step a benedictory direction of the Lord. What is considered to be an odd or difficult moment in the mundane sense is accepted as special mercy of the Lord. Mundane prosperity is a kind of material fever, and by the grace of the Lord, the temperature of this material fever is gradually diminished, and spiritual health is obtained step by step. Mundane people misunderstand it. Thus ends the Bhakti Vedanta purport. So, how did Narad Muni perceive the death of his mother in his past life? That is mentioned in the shloka. Tada, at that time, tat, that incident of my mother's passing away, aham, I, ishasya, bhaktanam, ishasya of the Lord, bhaktanam of the devotees, sham abhipsataha, sham means mercy or auspiciousness, abhipsataha, desiring, anugraham manyamanaha, manyamanaha means I thought in that way. How did I think? In which way did I think? Anugraham manyamanaha. I thought this is anugraha. This is a special benediction, a special favor of the Lord upon me, because the Lord is always desiring benediction, sham, mercy for his devotees, ishasya bhaktanam, sham abhipsataha. The Lord always desires good for his devotees because he is his eternal well-wisher. Therefore, I saw this incident of my mother's death as anugraham manyamanaha. I thought that it is a great anugraha, it is a great mercy upon me. Thinking in that way, manyamanaha, pratishtham, I departed, disham uttaram, to the northern direction. I went northern direction. That means, generally when we read in the scriptures, many times this comes, disham uttaram, he went towards the northern direction. It means he went towards the Himalayas. He went he took up the process of tapasya. Hmm? That is the meaning. So Narad Muni is saying, whatever this incident happened, without Krishna conscious understanding, I would have thought that it is a big disaster in my life. My only the only person who was caring for me, who was so affectionate for me, who was working hard to maintain my life, that only person, my mother, passed away. This is definitely a very big disaster in my life. So, without Krishna conscious knowledge, I would have thought in that way. But luckily for me, I had received transcendental knowledge from the Bhakti Vedantas during the Chaturmasya. And because of that knowledge, I thought that this is a special mercy the Lord is showing upon me. Anugraham manyamanaha. So look at this. How Krishna consciousness changes our point of view, our perspective of looking at things in this world. It's very, very important. It is very transformative. You know, our whole life is simply a matter of perspective only. You cannot change things in your life, but you can change the way you look at things in your life. That makes a very big difference, right? So, the death of a near and dear one can be perceived as the biggest disaster in one's life when looked from a material point of view. But when the same death of a near and dear one, when it is looked from a spiritual angle, spiritual perspective, like Narad Muni in his past life, he thought that it is a anugraha, because this was the only reason for my attachment to this material world. Oh Lord, you have done a very big favor by cutting off this knot of attachment. Now I can fully dedicate myself to your service. This was the perspective with which Narad Muni, in his past life, the boy Narada, saw this incident of his mother's passing away. So, Krishna consciousness, the knowledge, gives us such wonderful perspectives to look at things in this world. Anyway, the material world, one day everyone has to pass away. Even if one loves his near and dear one so much, one cannot stop the death of his near and dear ones. It's not possible at all. Jatasya hi dhruvo mrityuhu. A person who has taken birth in this material world has to die. There is no exception for this rule. Therefore, instead of becoming sorry, instead of becoming, depressed, one can actually see, oh, this is the Lord's plan for me. The Lord has given me an opportunity so that I can totally become dependent on Him. This is a wonderful perspective, isn't it? How it helps us in our spiritual pursuit. So, Prabhupada writes in the purport, the confidential devotees of the Lord see in every step a benedictory direction of the Lord. What is considered to be an appointment or what is considered to be an odd or difficult moment in the mundane sense is accepted as special mercy of the Lord. You see, you can see this in Kunti Maharani's prayers also. We shall see that in one of the coming chapters in the first canto. Kunti Maharani recollects all the miseries that she and her sons had to go through, but she also remembers that the Lord came in each situation and saved them. And therefore now she says, Vipada santuta shashvat tatra tatra jagat guru bhavata darshanam yadhi apunar bhava darshanam. She says, my dear Lord, please give those miseries again and again to us. This is a revolutionary prayer. Generally, nobody offers prayers to the Lord saying, give miseries to me. When we are in miseries, we go and ask the Lord, please save me from this danger, from this misery, like that. But Kunti Maharani is offering a revolutionary prayer. She's saying, let those miseries come again and again to us. Because when those miseries come, it's an opportunity for us to fully dependent on you, to become fully dependent on you. And you will surely come to protect your devotees, your surrendered souls, and we will get to see you. Seeing you means no more seeing repeated birth and death. Therefore, miseries are welcome. This is Kunti Maharani's realization. Let more miseries come so that in miserable condition, our dependence on Krishna goes to the next level, and in that way, we become more Krishna conscious. Therefore, miseries can act as an impetus for us to surrender to the Lord, isn't it? So, this is the prayer that Kunti Maharani is offering. And another, next Prabhupada mentions, so that means every disappointment can be turned into Krishna's appointment if we have the transcendental knowledge with us. If we are equipped with the right understanding from Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam, every disappointment can be converted into his appointment, Krishna's appointment. That is how a devotee is not at all affected by material miseries. One last point I would like to say and then end the class. Mundane prosperity is a kind of material fever, Prabhupada writes in the purport. And by the grace of the Lord, the temperature of this material fever is gradually diminished, and spiritual health is obtained step by step. Mundane people misunderstand it. So materialistic people can never understand. They'll say, see, you became a devotee of the Lord. What did the Lord give you? He only gave you miseries. He took away your wealth. He took away, you got this some disease you got. And people say, oh, why to become devotee of Krishna? Let us not become devotee of Krishna. See how the devotees have all suffered. They give so many examples. See how Prahlad Maharaj suffered so much. What will you get if you become devotee of Krishna? Isn't it? They give examples. But actually, Prabhupada writes, all these miseries that a devotee experiences, it is an operation that the Lord is right doing so that the fever of material disease, material fever, temperature reduces so that he becomes fully Krishna conscious and can go back to the spiritual world. See, this is a different perspective, isn't it? So, Krishna, he, you know, uh, we all go through so many miseries in our life because of our past karma. But if we surrender to Krishna, Krishna will orchestrate our life in such a way that he will manage all the reactions of our past activities in such a way that our material fever decreases and we become more and more Krishna conscious, we more become dependent on him, and he takes us back to Godhead. That is Krishna's way of taking care of his devotees. Krishna says, Yoga Kshemam Mahamyaham. Krishna is promising, whoever becomes my devotee, I take care of my devotee's needs, necessities, and everything. And finally, I will make sure that he will come back to me. So, a devotee is going through miseries and miserable condition in this material world. It is actually not because of his past karma, but it is because of Krishna's intervention in the life of his devotees to make sure that he takes them back to Godhead quickly. So that is the way. So Krishna wants to reduce the temperature of our material fever, and Krishna does it in his own way. So this is the difference between worshipping the Devatas and worshipping Krishna. When you worship the Devatas, no doubt you get material benedictions from them, by which your material life becomes more comfortable, but you become more attached to material things and you remain in the cycle of birth and death. But once you surrender to Krishna, Krishna does not easily give benedictions to his devotees because Krishna's main purpose is to take us back to Godhead. Krishna doesn't want us to settle down in this material world. So sometimes Krishna puts us in apparently miserable condition for our own good, so that we become detached from these material things and we become more and more attached to Krishna. Another example is Maharaj Parikshit. He was Bhagavatottama, he was a very exalted, pure devotee, but he was cursed by a Brahmana boy to die in 7 days. And how did Parikshit Maharaj receive that curse? He did not become sorry or he did not become affected at all. Immediately he gave up his royal robes. He became detached from his kingdom, and he went to the association of saintly devotees on the banks of Ganga. And from the lips of Shukadev Goswami, he heard the entire Srimad Bhagavatam. So therefore, uh, uh, our response, Krishna watches. That is a test for our devotional service. When everything is going on nicely, we can say, oh, I am a devotee of Krishna. But when miseries come in our life, are we still dependent on Krishna? Are we becoming more attached to Krishna? That is what Krishna wants to see. And if we are intelligent and if we have cultured this transcendental knowledge, then we will be able to give a Krishna conscious response to all the miseries in our life. And we can pass the test of Krishna, and then Krishna takes special care, he takes charge of our life. So let's see what happened after this. After his mother passed away, what did the boy Narada do? Where all he went, what all he did? Here it is said he went towards the northern direction, he went towards Himalayas. What did he do? And what happened after that? We will all see that in the coming session. Thank you very much. Granthara Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Vishwa Guru Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare
Jai.
Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.